Chapter 1. The mic is always on. It was supposed to be just another recording night. The crew of the popular true crime podcast, Dead Air, had gathered in the small, echo-treated studio above a coffee shop in downtown Portland. There was Logan, the host with the velvet voice and a fondness for dramatic pauses. Marissa, the researcher, whose meticulous notes often uncovered what the police had missed. Then there was Theo, the editor, quiet but observant. And Jules, the social media manager who turned their darkest stories into viral content. They were all seasoned storytellers, having dissected dozens of unsolved cases and questionable convictions. But tonight's episode was different. It wasn't just about telling a story. It was about exposing one. "You're sure we're safe to talk about this?" Theo asked, scanning the room, his fingers drumming the table. Marissa looked up from her laptop. "As safe as we ever are. But if the source is right, this goes way beyond what we've covered before. This could shake the city's elite." Logan leaned into the mic. "We're recording. Let's do this. Tonight's episode, The Missing Witness." They began telling the story of Rachel Dunn, a paralegal who vanished 3 years ago after threatening to go public with what she claimed was a cover-up involving a high-profile murder case. Official reports ruled it a suicide. No body, no note. But Marissa had spent months digging, connecting Rachel to a now-defunct private law firm, several powerful clients, and, most chilling, an audio file that Rachel had allegedly recorded the night before she disappeared. Jules pulled up the waveform on her screen. "It's distorted. You can barely hear her, but the timestamp matches the night she vanished. There's a moment where she says, 'If they find me, tell the podcast people. They'll know what to do.'" A silence fell over the group. Then Logan nodded, his voice steady. "We're the podcast people. Let's find out what she wanted us to know." As the recording session went on, strange glitches popped up in their equipment. The microphones hissed with static. Jules's laptop flickered, and her screen briefly showed a reflection. Someone standing behind her, though the studio door was locked. "Did anyone else see that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Theo stood up and checked the hallway. Empty. "It's probably nothing," Logan said. "But let's wrap the session for now. We'll edit tomorrow." As they packed up, Marissa pulled Logan aside. "I think we're being watched. And not just through our downloads. Someone doesn't want us to tell Rachel's story." Logan paused. "Then we definitely need to tell it." Neither of them noticed the red blinking light tucked in the acoustic foam on the wall. A hidden recorder, capturing every word. And in the darkness of a parked car down the block, someone listened. As the second episode of the podcast series loomed, tension simmered beneath the surface. The 4 remaining members, Max, Rachel, Elena, and Theo, were running on fumes. Late nights spent editing, marketing, and rewriting scripts had chipped away at their unity. The missing piece, Simon, lingered like a ghost in every conversation. Each of them pretending not to notice the long silences or the way Theo avoided looking at his phone. Rachel had taken it upon herself to be the new anchor of the show, adopting a professional tone and sharp delivery that impressed fans but unnerved her co-hosts. It felt like she was steering the narrative somewhere dark. Elena, meanwhile, had grown distant, haunted by dreams she wouldn't discuss. Theo was restless and twitchy, eyes darting every time the studio door creaked. Then came the file. At first, they assumed it was fan mail, a strange, encrypted email with a wave attachment labeled only "Listen." Theo opened it casually, assuming it was a prank. But what played through the speakers silenced them. It was Simon's voice. "I should have never agreed to air it. I thought we were just telling stories, but it was real. It's all real. If you're hearing this, it means I've failed." Then the file cut to static. "What the hell was that?" Rachel asked, her voice unsteady. Theo stared at the screen. "Metadata says it was recorded 2 nights ago. That's impossible." Elena looked pale. "Unless he's still alive." Max rewound the file and played it again, analyzing every syllable. There was something in Simon's tone, urgency laced with regret. As the group huddled around the laptop, they started hearing things in the static. Warped voices, maybe even names. That night, Rachel received a text from an unknown number. "Don't look into the attic recording. You're next." Rachel didn't tell the others. Instead, she doubled down. She began probing into old podcast files and archived footage. Her instincts told her the story Simon tried to bury was hidden in an episode they had never released. the one he insisted they shelve indefinitely. When she found it, labeled only EP0 Uncut, it was corrupted. She spent hours restoring what she could, piecing together strange interviews Simon had conducted alone, a former cult member, a whistleblower from a government agency, and someone who simply referred to themselves as the host. Rachel looped Theo in. Simon knew something. He was building a web. And that voice, the host, talks about a signal, a broadcast that alters perception. What if he wasn't crazy? Theo rubbed his temples. We were a true crime podcast, not conspiracy nuts. But that's just it. We thought we were creating content. What if we were helping someone spread it? The realization hit them like a punch to the chest. They had been the delivery system. Meanwhile, Elena had vanished. She didn't show up for the group meeting the next day. Her phone was off. Max went to her apartment. No one answered. Inside, he found a printed transcript of Simon's last recorded confession taped to the fridge. The last line was underlined. They are listening through us. Max turned to leave and noticed the blinking red light in the corner of her living room. A camera. Back at the studio, Theo confronted Rachel. We need to stop. This is going beyond entertainment. This is real. But Rachel had already set episode 2 to publish at midnight. It's too late. We're past the point of no return. At 12:01 a.m., episode 2 went live. 32 minutes later, the podcast's entire subscriber base received an emergency push notification. Do not listen. By then, thousands already had. Within hours, message boards exploded with reports. Insomnia, hallucinations, paranoia. Some listeners claimed to hear Simon's voice whispering names. Others said they heard their own. Rachel checked the feed stats. Viewership had doubled. Comments were pouring in. But then she saw a new message appear directly in their upload queue. You've become the static. And underneath it, a new file appeared. No sender, no metadata. Just a title, finale. Theo backed away from the screen. This isn't just a podcast anymore, it's a broadcast weapon. Max looked pale. We can't undo it. It's already out there. Rachel stared at the monitor, a cold sweat breaking across her back. The final episode was scheduled to auto-release in 24 hours. Someone else was controlling the feed now. And the next voice the world would hear might not be theirs. The plan had been to air the final episode of Behind the Mic live, under the guise of wrapping up the show and celebrating their journey. But every person in that studio knew it was a countdown to detonation. Someone had to come clean. As the red live light flickered on, the atmosphere was electric with dread. The 4 remaining hosts were seated, headphones on, mics live, and fake smiles plastered over twitching nerves. The narrator begins. The final podcast begins with Emily greeting the listeners, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. She thanks the fans for sticking with them through years of truth-telling journalism and teases that tonight they have something unforgettable to share. Jackson chimes in next. The narrator continues. He adds that the team has been working on a hidden scandal for months. One that involves betrayal, identity theft, and even a possible murder. His words hit like gunshots. Then, over the comms, a subtle feed hack begins. Someone is remotely accessing their audio. The narrator explains. The team hears static, then snippets of an old recording. Eli, the former host, accusing one of them of leaking his medical records. The timing is intentional, damning. Chelsea goes pale. Her voice cracks when she tries to cut to a commercial break, but the system doesn't respond. The narrator. She realizes too late that someone has hijacked their broadcast. The secret episode, the one they thought they buried, was queued and playing for the world. It was the unreleased pilot they recorded years ago. A drunken night where they jokingly confessed their darkest secrets as if it were a mockumentary. The narrator. One by one, the voices came through. Jackson admitting he plagiarized whole episodes, Chelsea mocking suicide victims off-air, and Emily confessing she used a fake name to escape a criminal charge. The narrator continues. The shock in the studio is palpable. Viewers begin flooding social media. Comments light up in real time, turning their legacy to ash. But the final blow comes when Eli's voice returns, a posthumous message recorded before his accident. If you're hearing this, I was right. One of them tried to kill me. Ask about the pills. Ask about the texts. And look in Chelsea's car trunk. The feed cuts to black. Panic erupts. Emily rips off her headphones and runs to the control booth. The narrator. She finds that the system has been hardwired to play that message. Whoever did it planned this for months. Chelsea is hyperventilating. The narrator explains. She insists she has no idea what Eli is talking about. But the others stare at her, horror blooming across their faces. Police arrive. A tip had been called in earlier, an anonymous tip claiming Chelsea was involved in Eli's death. The narrator. They open the trunk of her car in the parking lot. Inside, they find an unopened bottle of Eli's prescription meds, wiped clean, and a burner phone with threatening texts. Chelsea collapses. Chelsea. Emily and Jackson look on, stunned. The narrator. Neither of them knows what's worse, that Eli was right, or that someone else planted the evidence. But just as Chelsea is being arrested, a call comes into the station. It's the show's old sound engineer, thought to have quit years ago. The narrator reveals. His voice is icy as he says, "Check the broadcast files. There's a file labeled Final, not by me, not by any of them." The tech team finds it. It had been uploaded from a remote location just hours before. Inside it is a manipulated version of the confessions. Voices stitched and altered to implicate all of them, even Chelsea. The narrator. A deeper plot emerges, one tied to a sponsor they'd exposed years ago, a pharmaceutical giant. The real twist? Eli had been working with them. He tried to silence the show, failed, and faked his own death. In a final broadcast twist, Eli himself appears on a pre-recorded video, alive, smug, and holding a press badge from the same company they'd once uncovered. "I told you, some stories aren't worth telling. This one?" It told itself. The screen fades to black. The show is pulled from every platform. Sponsors vanish. But the mystery remains. Was Eli dead or alive? Was Chelsea guilty or framed? And who, if anyone, was left to tell the real story? Only one thing was certain. The final podcast had become the story.